The harsh red emergency lighting bathed the Delta 7 conference chamber in an ominous glow. Dr. Kaya Wren straightened her formal science attire, a sleek black uniform with the emblem of Earth's Quantum Physics Institute emblazoned on the shoulder. Her hands trembled slightly as she arranged her data tablets before her. Through the vast viewport behind the council podium, the blue-green curve of an inhabited moon hung against the velvet blackness of space. The Galactic Council's orbital station, a marvel of engineering with its crystalline spires and gravity-defying architecture, had been humanity's introduction to intergalactic politics 20 years ago. Now, in the year 3421 CE, it would become the stage for humanity's most audacious diplomatic gambit. Your presentation materials have been uploaded to the Council network. Dr. Wren, said Envoy Marcus Steele, his silver-streaked hair and impeccable diplomatic uniform conveying both authority and support. Remember, stick to the data. No matter what Ambassador Rex says, let the science speak for itself. Kaya nodded, her dark eyes focused on the holographic display before her. The chamber was filling with representatives from 27 spacefaring species, some bipedal and almost human-like, others defying terrestrial biology entirely. The subtle hum of universal translators filled the air, along with the faint scent of varied atmospheric requirements. The Valari delegation has arrived, Steele murmured, his gaze fixed on the grand entrance. Ambassador Velana Vrek swept into the chamber with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. Her iridescent crest feathers, a mark of high status among the Valari, caught the red emergency lighting and diffracted it into menacing crimson patterns. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her avian features set in a permanent expression of haughty disdain. Behind her followed a retinue of lesser Valari officials, all bearing the insignia of the supremacy, the dominant political power in the explored galaxy for over 4 millennia. Secretary Tharix, the Zenthari moderator whose crystalline exoskeleton clicked softly as they moved, approached the central podium. Their multifaceted eyes reflected the chamber's lighting as they raised 4 of their 6 limbs in the traditional gesture requesting silence. The Delta 7 Scientific Exchange and Treaty Review will now commence, Tharix announced, their translator rendering their harmonic speech into Standard Galactic. As per Article 2 of the Accords, we begin with presentations of significant technological advancements. The delegation from Earth has requested priority speaking rights under subsection 4B. Developments of critical galactic import. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Captain Gexar of the Krexani, a reptilian species known for their military prowess and pragmatic outlook, leaned forward at their observation post. Scales shifting from green to an interested amber. Objection. Velana's voice cut through the chamber with practiced authority. Earth has been a recognized spacefaring civilization for merely 2 centuries. Their understanding of critical galactic import is questionable at best. Secretary Tharix turned their crystalline head toward the human delegation. Envoy Steele, please justify your priority request. Marcus Steele rose, his posture impeccable. Under Article 2, subsection 4B, we are not required to disclose the nature of our advancement before formal presentation. However, I will state that our research involves fundamental alterations to current understanding of interstellar travel methodologies. Velana's crest feathers flattened against her skull, a sign of irritation among the Valari. The Valari supremacy has maintained the gate network for 4,000 years. All significant research in interstellar travel passes through our science ministry. We have received no such research from Earth. That is correct, Ambassador? Steele replied, his diplomatic training evident in his measured tone. We conducted our research independently. Before Velana could respond, Secretary Tharix raised their upper limbs again, The Council recognizes Earth's right to present under subsection 4B. Dr. Kaya Ren, you may begin your presentation. Kaya approached the central podium, feeling the weight of every alien gaze. Her heart pounded, but her voice remained steady as she activated the holographic display. Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Council, I present findings from Project Quantum Tunnel, Earth's decade-long research initiative into alternative faster-than-light travel methodologies. The chamber erupted in whispers. The Valari delegation's crest feathers stood fully erect, a sign of alarm. For 2 centuries, Kaya continued, humanity has utilized the Valari Gate network for interstellar travel, paying the established transit fees and adhering to all regulatory frameworks. However, as a species, we have continued to explore alternative methodologies based on our pre-contact theoretical physics. She gestured, and the holographic display transformed into a complex mathematical model, equations flowing and reforming in 3-dimensional space. Our research team has successfully developed and tested a quantum tunnel drive capable of creating stable wormholes without the massive energy requirements of traditional gate technology. The quantum tunnel methodology allows for point-to-point travel without fixed gate infrastructure. Ambassador Valana rose from her seat, her tall frame quivering with barely contained rage. This is absurd. The energy requirements for artificial wormhole generation are well established. What you describe would require zero-point vacuum manipulation, Kaya interrupted, bringing up new data visualizations. By harvesting quantum fluctuations at the subatomic level, we've eliminated the primary energy barrier. Captain Gexar's scales had shifted to a deep blue of intense interest, while other delegations began urgent whispered consultations. The implications were clear to everyone in the chamber. If true, humanity had broken the Valari monopoly on interstellar travel, a monopoly that formed the backbone of their political and economic power. Our prototype vessels have successfully completed 342 trials. Kaya continued, displaying flight telemetry data. The longest journey covered 22 light-years in approximately 8.3 seconds, with negligible energy expenditure compared to gate transit. "Oh, this is fabrication," Valana hissed, striding toward the central podium. The Valari supremacy has spent millennia perfecting interstellar travel technologies. A primitive species barely 2 centuries into space could not, surpass our achievements. Kaya remained calm, highlighting key sections of the data. The mathematical foundations were developed by Dr. Werner Chang in 2318, building on pre-contact theories from the 21st century. The practical applications— "Enough!" Valana's voice echoed through the chamber. She loomed over Kaya, her avian features contorted with fury. "You stand in the Galactic Council and present falsified data to undermine the established order. The Valari supremacy will not tolerate such. The data is verifiable through independent analysis," Kaya replied, refusing to be intimidated. "I invite any delegation to examine our methodology and replicate our results. Science advances through transparency, Ambassador, not through monopoly." The chamber fell silent. In 4 millennia of Council history, few had directly challenged Valari technological supremacy to their face. Captain Gexar's scales had shifted to a warning yellow, while Secretary Tharix's crystalline body emitted a subtle harmonic, a sign of distress among the Zenthari. "You dare," Valana whispered, her translator barely picking up the words. "You primitive, arrogant—" And then it happened. The sound of the slap echoed through the silent chamber like a thunderclap. Kaya's head snapped to the side, a purple handprint already forming on her cheek where Valana's scaled hand had struck her. The holographic display flickered, then stabilized, the data continuing its relentless flow as if nothing had happened. For 3 heartbeats, no one moved, no one spoke. Then, with terrifying calmness, Kaya turned back to face the ambassador. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth where one of Valana's scales had cut her skin. "Secretary Tharix," Kaya said, her voice steady but resonating with barely contained fury. "I formally request invocation of Article 7 of the Accords. Physical assault of a diplomatic representative constitutes an act of aggression against their sovereign power." Tharix's crystalline body emitted a high-pitched harmonic of alarm. "The request is noted and recognized under council law." Marcus Steele was already on his feet, his diplomatic training momentarily forgotten as he rushed to Kaya's side. "The Earth delegation formally withdraws from these proceedings pending resolution of this incident. We will be in contact through established channels." Before anyone could respond, every human in the chamber, 14 scientists, diplomats, and security personnel, activated their personal communicators simultaneously. Then, as one, they turned and exited the chamber in perfect practiced formation. The last image the council saw was Dr. Kaya Wren, her cheek bruised but her posture unbowed, staring directly at Ambassador Valana with eyes that promised consequences beyond the Valari's imagination. The doors sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss, leaving shocked silence in their wake. Captain Gexar, his scales now a deep, warning red, was the first to speak. "Secretary Tharix," the Krexani officer rumbled, "I believe the Valari supremacy has just declared war on Earth." The chamber exploded into chaos. The Zenthari moderator's crystalline exoskeleton emitted a cacophony of distressed harmonics as they attempted to restore order to the council chamber. Ambassador Valana Vrek stood frozen at the podium, her scaled hand still tingling from the impact, her crest feathers flattened in the sudden realization of what she had done. "This session is temporarily suspended," Secretary Tharix announced, their translator struggling to convey the urgency in their harmonic speech. "All delegations will remain in the chamber while the council assesses the diplomatic implications of this incident." Captain Gexar approached the central platform, his reptilian gait deliberate and measured, scales still pulsing with warning red. "Secretary, as military observer for the Krexani Empire, I request immediate sensor sweeps of all approaching vectors. If the humans invoke Article 7 in full, we may face immediate tactical response." Valana finally found her voice. "This is absurd. A disciplinary action against an insolent scientist hardly constitutes—" "Ambassador Vrek," Tharix interrupted, their crystalline limbs vibrating with tension. "Under the accords which your own civilization helped draft, physical assault of a diplomatic representative is explicitly categorized as an act of aggression against their sovereign power. The human Dr. Wren correctly invoked Article 7. The humans are barely 2 centuries into space." Valana scoffed, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. "They maintain a defensive fleet of perhaps 40 vessels. This is diplomatic theater, nothing more." Captain Gexar's scales shifted to a contemplative blue. "Perhaps, or perhaps we should consider the implications of Dr. Wren's presentation. If the humans truly possess quantum tunnel technology—" The unfinished thought hung in the air like a blade. At that moment, the chamber's communication array emitted a series of urgent tones. Secretary Tharix extended a crystalline appendage, activating the system. "Emergency bulletin from station control," announced an automated voice. "All human vessels have disengaged from docking protocols and departed council space, attempting to track. Unable to establish tracking. Vessels no longer appear on long-range sensors." A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. "Additionally," the automated voice continued, "all communication channels with Earth and human colonies have gone silent. Repeated hails on all frequencies received no response. Captain Gexar turned to Valana, his scales now pulsing between warning red and analytical blue. Ambassador, your diplomatic experience far exceeds mine, but I believe we are witnessing what humans call a communications blackout, a standard prelude to military action. Impossible, Valana whispered, but her crest feathers trembled with uncertainty. The gate network is irrelevant if they possess functional quantum tunnel technology. Gexar finished for her. Secretary Tharix, I recommend we activate the station's defensive protocols. Before Tharix could respond, a junior Valari aide rushed into the chamber, her crest feathers flat against her skull in the posture of extreme distress. Ambassador, she gasped. The Science Ministry reports massive hyperspace disturbances throughout Valari territory. The patterns are inconsistent with known gate technology. Valana's composure cracked. Show me. The aide activated a portable holographic projector. A three-dimensional map of Valari space materialized, dotted with pulsing anomalies, hundreds of them, appearing and disappearing seemingly at random. Captain Gexar studied the display, his scales shifting to a deep, analytical indigo. These readings are consistent with the creation and collapse of quantum tunnels, precisely as Dr. Wren described in her presentation. Ambassador, I believe the humans are conducting fleet maneuvers throughout your territory. Impossible, Valana repeated, but this time there was fear in her voice. Our sensor networks would detect vessel signatures, not if they've developed phase-shifting technology alongside their quantum tunnel drives. Gexar countered. The Krexani military intelligence has long suspected the humans were more technologically advanced than they revealed publicly. Secretary Tharix raised all 6 limbs, demanding attention. This speculation serves no purpose. We must establish communication with the Earth authorities immediately and begin diplomatic resolution procedures. I concur, Captain Gexar said, his scales settling into a diplomatic green. Ambassador Rek, as the initiating party in this conflict, protocol dictates that you must issue a formal apology and request for parley. Valana's pride reasserted itself. The Valari supremacy does not apologize to lesser species who present fraudulent. The chamber's communication array activated again, cutting her off. This time, instead of an automated message, a holographic projection materialized in the center of the room. A human female in the formal black and gold uniform of Earth's Fleet Command. Greetings, Galactic Council, the woman said, her voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge of steel. I am Fleet Admiral Aurora Sinclair, Supreme Commander of Earth's Interstellar Defense Forces. I speak with the full authority of the United Earth Government. Secretary Tharix stepped forward. Admiral Sinclair, the Council welcomes this communication. We are currently addressing the unfortunate incident between Ambassador Rek and Dr. Wren. The unfortunate incident, Secretary, Sinclair interrupted, was a clear violation of Article 7 of the Accords. Earth has formally invoked its rights under that article. Our diplomatic corps has withdrawn. Our communication channels are closed except for this singular transmission. Captain Gexar moved into the projection's field of view. Admiral, as military observer for the Krexani Empire, I must inquire, what are your intentions? Admiral Sinclair's expression remained impassive. Earth demands a formal public apology from Ambassador Valana Rek within 72 standard hours. Additionally, we require the Galactic Council to convene an emergency session to review the accords regarding technological exchange and travel rights. And if these demands are not met, Gexar asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer, then Earth will be forced to take additional measures to ensure the safety and dignity of its citizens. Sinclair replied, I trust that will not be necessary. Ambassador Valana pushed past Tharix, facing the hologram directly. Your threats are meaningless. Admiral, the Valari supremacy controls all legal interstellar travel. Your world can be isolated with a single command to our gate operators. Admiral Sinclair actually smiled, a cold, calculating expression that sent a chill through the chamber. Ambassador Rek, she said, I suggest you review Dr. Wren's presentation data again, particularly the sections on quantum tunnel navigation and energy requirements. Earth no longer requires your gates. The hologram flickered, then stabilized. 72 hours, Ambassador. The choice between peaceful resolution and alternatives rests with you. The transmission terminated abruptly, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Captain Gexar turned to Valana, his scales now a diplomatic green tinged with warning amber. Ambassador, speaking as someone with extensive military experience, I strongly advise you to consider that apology. Valana's crest feathers quivered with a mixture of rage and fear. The Valari supremacy has never apologized to any species in 4 millennia of galactic leadership. Then perhaps, Gexar replied quietly, it is time for new leadership in the galaxy. 48 hours later, the crisis had only deepened. The Valari Supremacy's ruling council remained deadlocked on how to respond to Earth's ultimatum. Hardliners, led by Supreme Minister Zavik, demanded military action to put the humans in their place. Pragmatists, increasingly vocal as sensor data continued to show quantum tunnel activity throughout Valari space, argued for diplomatic resolution. Ambassador Valana Vrek found herself caught between these factions. Her personal pride demanded she stand firm against the human ultimatum, but her political instincts warned of catastrophe if she did. In her private quarters aboard the council station, she reviewed Dr. Wren's presentation for the 12th time. The mathematics were elegant, the experimental data comprehensive. If true, and the continued sensor anomalies suggested it was, the quantum tunnel technology would render the Valari gate network obsolete overnight. 4 millennia of technological superiority, economic dominance, and political leadership, all potentially undone by a single human scientist and her team. A chime announced a visitor. Valana closed the holographic display with a gesture. Enter. Captain Gexar stepped into the room, his scales a neutral diplomatic green. Ambassador, I come as an informal envoy from the Council's Military Observation Committee. Valana gestured to a seat designed to accommodate various physiologies. Speak freely, Captain. Our long-range sensors have detected a new development, Gexar said without preamble. Approximately 6 hours ago, quantum tunnel signatures began appearing in a spherical formation around this station. The pattern suggests deliberate positioning. Valana's crest feathers rose in alarm. An attack formation? Possibly, Gexar conceded. Or simply a show of force. The signatures are maintaining position, neither advancing nor retreating. How many vessels? Gexar's scales shifted to analytical blue. Based on tunnel signatures, we estimate between 1,000 and 1,200 ships. Valana stared at him in disbelief. Impossible. Earth's known fleet consists of no more than 40 defensive vessels. Known fleet, Gexar emphasized. Ambassador, I have studied human history extensively. They have a tendency to undersell their capabilities while overbuilding their defenses. They call it strategic ambiguity. Valana paced the chamber, her crest feathers flattening and rising with her turbulent emotions. Even if they have hidden vessels, they cannot possibly maintain a functional fleet of 1,000 ships. The resources required would be minimal with zero-point energy technology. Gexar interrupted. Ambassador, I advise you to accept the reality before us. The humans have achieved technological parity, possibly superiority, while maintaining the appearance of a junior species dependent on Valari infrastructure. Why? Vallana demanded. Why maintain such a deception? Gexar's scales shifted to a thoughtful purple. In human military theory, there is a concept called the element of surprise. They believe that revealing one's true strength only at the moment of maximum advantage is the surest path to victory. Vallana stopped pacing, her avian features settling into a mask of cold calculation. And you believe that moment has arrived? I believe, Gexar said carefully, that the moment was triggered by your physical assault on Dr. Wren. Intentionally or not, you provided them with the legal justification to reveal their true capabilities under the protection of Article 7. Before Vallana could respond, her communication array chimed with an urgent signal. Ambassador Vrek, came the voice of Secretary Tharix. Your presence is required in the council chamber immediately. The humans have re-established contact. Vallana and Gexar exchanged glances before hurrying to the chamber. When they arrived, they found the council already assembled, all eyes fixed on the central holographic projector. Instead of Admiral Sinclair, the projection showed a different human, a striking woman with silver-streaked black hair and the formal attire of Earth's diplomatic corps. Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Council, the woman said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. I am Secretary of Interstellar Affairs Mara Nakamura, speaking on behalf of the United Earth Government. Secretary Tharix stepped forward. Secretary Nakamura, the Council acknowledges your transmission. We are prepared to discuss resolution of the current diplomatic situation. The time for discussion has passed, Nakamura replied firmly. Earth has submitted the Human Integration Accords to the Council's database. We require a formal vote on acceptance within the next 12 hours. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Vallana pushed her way to the front of the chamber. What are these integration accords? She demanded. Nakamura's expression remained impassive. The accords detail a new framework for galactic cooperation based on technological parity and mutual respect, rather than the current system of Valari technological monopoly. With a gesture, Nakamura brought up a holographic document, hundreds of pages of legal text and technical specifications. Key provisions include recognition of Earth's quantum tunnel technology as a legitimate alternative to gate travel, establishment of new diplomatic protocols that eliminate species-based hierarchies, and creation of joint research initiatives to advance all Council species. Captain Gexar's scales had shifted to an intrigued blue. Secretary Nakamura, the Krexani Empire is particularly interested in these joint research initiatives. Could you elaborate? Captain Gexar, Nakamura acknowledged with a nod. The Accords establish a new Intercouncil Science Commission where all member species contribute and benefit equally from technological advances. No more monopolies, no more artificial scarcity of knowledge. Preposterous, Vallana interjected. The current system has maintained peace and order for 4 millennia. These accords would destroy the foundation of galactic stability. Nakamura turned her gaze directly to Vallana. Ambassador Vrek, the foundation of true stability is equality and mutual respect, not enforced dependency. Your slap against Dr. Wren was merely the physical manifestation of an attitude the Valari have displayed toward humanity since our first contact. The Council cannot be coerced into accepting such radical changes, Vallana insisted, looking to the other delegates for support. To her dismay, many averted their eyes or displayed their species' equivalent of thoughtful consideration. There is no coercion, Nakamura stated calmly. Merely a demonstration of the new reality. To illustrate this point, I invite the Council to observe. The holographic display shifted to show the space surrounding the council station. For a moment, nothing seemed unusual, just the familiar backdrop of stars and distant planets. Then, simultaneously, over 1,000 vessels phased into visibility, forming a perfect sphere around the station. The ships were sleek, their designs unlike anything in the council registry, their hulls bearing the insignia of Earth's fleet. These vessels, Nakamura explained as the council chamber erupted in exclamations and alarms, have been in position for the past 24 hours, using phase-shifting technology to remain undetected by Valari sensors. They arrived via quantum tunnel jumps, bypassing your gate network entirely. Captain Gexar's scales had shifted to a mixture of impressed blue and cautious amber. A most effective demonstration. Secretary, the Krexani appreciate clarity in matters of power transition. Nakamura nodded acknowledgement. This is not a threat, but a revelation of the true state of affairs. Earth could have used this technology to establish dominance years ago. Instead, we choose to offer partnership. She turned back to the stunned council. You have 12 hours to review and vote on the Human Integration Accords. As a gesture of good faith, our fleet will maintain a defensive posture only. However, her gaze fixed on Valana. We still await Ambassador Vrek's public apology to Dr. Wren. That requirement remains non-negotiable. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in tumultuous debate. Species that had been loyal Valari allies for centuries were suddenly reviewing the new accords with obvious interest. Captain Gexar had already assembled a team of Krexani analysts to examine the technical specifications of the quantum tunnel technology. Ambassador Valana stood alone, her political support evaporating like morning dew under a harsh sun. 4 millennia of Valari supremacy were crumbling before her eyes, all because she had slapped a human scientist during a moment of anger. The next 12 hours would determine whether she would be remembered as the ambassador who destroyed her civilization's dominance, or the visionary who guided the Valari into a new era of cooperation. The choice and the public apology were hers alone to make. The council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 27 spacefaring species had assembled, their attention divided between the central podium and the massive viewport where Earth's fleet remained in perfect formation, a silent reminder of the new power reality. Secretary Tharix called the emergency session to order, their crystalline body emitting the harmonics of formal procedure. As per emergency protocols, the Council will now vote on the proposed Human Integration Accords. Tharix announced. Before voting commences, the chair recognizes Captain Gexar of the Krexani Empire. Gexar stepped forward, his scales a confident diplomatic green. Esteemed colleagues, the Krexani Military Intelligence and Science Division has completed a preliminary analysis of the quantum tunnel technology detailed in the Accords. Our findings confirm the validity of Dr. Wren's presentation. This technology represents a fundamental advancement in interstellar travel capabilities. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as Gexar continued. Furthermore, our analysis suggests that implementation of the joint research initiatives outlined in the Accords would benefit all Council species. The Krexani Empire therefore casts its vote in favor of acceptance. A wave of surprise swept through the chamber. The Krexani had been traditional allies of the Valari supremacy for over 2 millennia. Their defection signaled a seismic shift in the political landscape. Over the next hour, 16 other species followed the Krexani lead, voting to accept the Accords. The remaining delegations abstained, waiting to see how the Valari would respond. None voted against. All eyes turned to Ambassador Valana Vrek. She stood alone at the Valari podium, her once proud posture now rigid with tension. Behind her, the Valari delegation was visibly divided, some advisors urgently whispering recommendations for acceptance, others maintaining the hard-line stance of rejection. The chair recognizes Ambassador Velana Vrek of the Valari Supremacy. Secretary Tharix announced, their harmonic tones neutral but expectant. Velana approached the central podium with measured steps. The chamber fell silent, the only sound the subtle hum of environmental systems maintaining the diverse atmospheric requirements of the assembled species. Before I address the matter of the Human Integration Accords, Velana began, her voice carrying less of its usual imperial confidence. I must fulfill the requirements set forth by Earth regarding the incident with Dr. Kaya Ren. The main doors of the chamber slid open, and a delegation of humans entered, led by Dr. Ren herself. She walked with quiet dignity, the bruise on her cheek now faded but still visible. Behind her followed Envoy Marcus Steele and several other human diplomats and scientists. The humans took their designated places without speaking. Kaya's gaze met Velana's across the chamber, steady, unflinching, but without triumph or malice. Velana straightened her posture, her crest feathers rising slightly in the Valari gesture of formal address. Dr. Kaya Ren, she began, her translator rendering her words in both Standard Galactic and Earth's English. On behalf of the Valari Supremacy, I extend a formal apology for my physical assault upon your person during the scientific presentation 2 standard days ago. The words seemed to pain her physically, but she continued. My actions violated both the letter and spirit of the Galactic Accords which my civilization helped establish. They reflected neither the dignity of my office nor the respect due to a fellow scientist presenting verifiable research findings. Kaya nodded once in acknowledgement but remained silent. Velana paused, visibly struggling with what came next. After 3 seconds that seemed to stretch into eternity, she continued. Furthermore, having reviewed your research thoroughly, I acknowledge the validity of your quantum tunnel technology and recognize its significance to future interstellar travel methodologies. A collective murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. Even Captain Gexar's scales shifted to a startled yellow before returning to diplomatic green. Of the Valari Supremacy, Velana concluded, her voice finding new strength in pragmatism. Therefore votes to accept the Human Integration Accords, with the request that our Science Ministry be granted observer status in the initial implementation of the Inter-Council Science Commission. For a moment, the chamber remained silent, absorbing the historic significance of what had just occurred. Then, with deliberate steps, Dr. Kaya Ren approached the central podium. Ambassador Vrek, she said, her voice clear and measured. Earth accepts your apology and welcomes the Valari Supremacy's participation in the Inter-Council Science Commission, not as observers, but as full partners. She extended her hand, a human gesture of reconciliation that had been included in the cultural exchange briefings provided to all council species. After a moment's hesitation, Velana extended her scaled hand in return. The two clasped hands briefly, sealing the new understanding between their civilizations. Secretary Tharix, Kaya continued, turning to the Zenthari moderator. With the Council's permission, I would like to introduce the head of Earth's diplomatic corps, who will outline the implementation timeline for the Accords. Tharix's crystalline body emitted the harmonics of agreement. The Council recognizes Secretary of Interstellar Affairs Mara Nakamura. Nakamura stepped forward, her silver-streaked black hair catching the light as she took the central podium. The holographic display activated, showing a detailed timeline of integration phases. Esteemed representatives, she began. The Human Integration Accords will be implemented in 3 phases over the next standard year. Phase 1 focuses on technological standardization and scientific exchange. Phase 2 addresses diplomatic restructuring and equality protocols. Phase 3 establishes the Permanent Intercouncil Science Commission and Joint Fleet Operations. As Nakamura detailed the implementation plan, Kaya returned to the Human Delegations section. Envoy Marcus Steele leaned toward her, keeping his voice low. "Perfectly executed," he murmured. "From scientific presentation to galactic restructuring in 72 hours. Fleet Admiral Sinclair sends her compliments." Kaya allowed herself a small smile. "The fleet demonstration was particularly effective. Please convey my thanks to the Admiral for her impeccable timing." "There will be resistance," Steele cautioned, glancing toward the Valari delegation where several advisors were openly displaying their dissatisfaction. "Some factions won't surrender 4 millennia of supremacy without a fight. That's why we're establishing the Joint Fleet Operations in Phase 3. Kaya replied, "Integration of military assets will make it significantly harder for any single species to reassert dominance." On the central podium, Nakamura was concluding her presentation. "And with the establishment of Unity Station as the headquarters for the Intercouncil Science Commission, we begin a new chapter in galactic cooperation." The holographic display showed the architectural plans for Unity Station, a massive research facility incorporating design elements from all Council species, scheduled for completion within 6 standard months. "Questions?" Nakamura asked, surveying the chamber. Captain Gexar rose from the Krexani section. "Secretary Nakamura, the Krexani Empire is particularly interested in the quantum tunnel technology's military applications. Will these be shared under the Accords?" A subtle tension rippled through the chamber. The question touched on the heart of power dynamics in the new arrangement. Nakamura nodded acknowledgement. "Captain, the Accords specifically address military technology in Section 12. Defensive applications of quantum tunnel technology will be shared with all signatories. Offensive capabilities require unanimous approval from the Security Council, which will include representatives from all major military powers, including the Krexani Empire." Gexar's scales shifted to satisfied blue. "The Krexani appreciate this balanced approach." From the Valari section, one of the hardline advisors stood Minister Zexal, known for his nationalist views. "Secretary," he called out, his translator barely containing the contempt in his voice. "These accords effectively end 4 millennia of Valari leadership in galactic affairs. What assurances do we have that Earth will not simply replace Valari supremacy with human dominance?" Before Nakamura could respond, Ambassador Valana herself turned to address her countrymen. "Minister Zexal," she said, her voice carrying the weight of her new understanding. "The difference is that Earth has offered partnership where we demanded subservience. They have chosen to share technology we would have monopolized. Perhaps it is time for the Valari to learn a different form of leadership, one based on cooperation rather than control." The chamber fell silent, stunned by this philosophical reversal from the once proudest voice of Valari supremacy. Nakamura allowed the moment to resonate before continuing. "The first meeting of the Transition Council will convene tomorrow at 800 hours station time. All signatory species are invited to send representatives. This session of the Galactic Council is now adjourned." As the various delegations began to disperse, Dr. Kaya Ren found herself face-to-face with Ambassador Valana once more. "Your apology was unexpected in its thoroughness," Kaya said quietly. Valana's crest feathers shifted in a subtle pattern that the human had come to recognize as rueful acknowledgement. 4 millennia of history has taught the Valari many things. Dr. Ren. Chief among them is knowing when one has been outmaneuvered. "This isn't about maneuvering," Kaya replied. "It's about building something better together." "Perhaps," Valana conceded. "Though I confess I find it difficult to believe that humans developed this technology purely for the sake of peaceful cooperation." Kaya smiled. We developed it because exploration is in our nature. How we choose to use it, that's where our true character emerges. She extended her hand again, and this time Valana took it without hesitation. I look forward to seeing what we can achieve together. Ambassador. As do I, Dr. Wren, Valana replied, her crest feathers rising in the Valari expression of cautious optimism. As do I. Kailamamama. 6 standard months later. Unity Station hung in space like a jewel of cooperation, its crystalline spires reminiscent of Zenthari architecture, its gravity systems based on Krexani principles, its central hub incorporating elements of human, Valari, and a dozen other species' design philosophies. In the primary research chamber, Dr. Kaya Wren stood before a holographic display, surrounded by scientists from 8 different species. The display showed a real-time simulation of quantum tunnel formation, the swirling energies of subspace folding and unfolding in predictable patterns. The stability ratio has improved by 23%, Kaya explained, highlighting key metrics in the data flow. This means larger vessels can now transit safely without energy fluctuations. A Valari scientist, chief researcher Vexen, one of Valana's younger cousins, leaned forward to examine the data more closely. The mathematics are elegant, he admitted, his crest feathers rising in scientific appreciation. By incorporating Zenthari harmonic theory with human quantum mechanics, you've eliminated the phase variance we observed in earlier trials. We've eliminated it, Kaya corrected gently. Your insights into subspace resonance were crucial to resolving the stability issues. Vexen's crest feathers fluttered in the Valari equivalent of embarrassed pleasure. 6 months ago. Such acknowledgement from a human would have been unthinkable for a proud Valari scientist. Now, it was simply part of the new collaborative reality. The research chamber's doors slid open, admitting Ambassador Valana Vrek and Envoy Marcus Steele. Both had been appointed to the Permanent Oversight Committee for Unity Station, a diplomatic role that kept them closely involved with the scientific breakthroughs occurring daily. Dr. Wren, Steele called out, his diplomatic formality softened by genuine enthusiasm. The Transition Council has approved the first joint fleet exercise using quantum tunnel technology. 20 vessels from 5 species will participate, including the Valari flagship Guardian of Dawn. Kaya looked to Valana in surprise. The Guardian of Dawn was the pride of the Valari fleet, a vessel that had previously been off-limits to non-Valari personnel. Valana's crest feathers rose in affirmation. The Valari High Command believes that full integration is the only logical path forward. If our flagship is to be equipped with quantum tunnel drives, its crew must train alongside other species. This is significant progress, Kaya said, unable to keep the satisfaction from her voice. Progress born of necessity, Valana replied with characteristic frankness. Though I must admit, the benefits of cooperation have exceeded my most optimistic projections. She gestured to the holographic display. The combined research efforts of multiple species have advanced quantum tunnel technology further in 6 months than Earth achieved alone in a decade. That was always the point, Kaya said. Knowledge multiplies when shared. Valana's crest feathers shifted in a pattern that Kaya had come to recognize as philosophical contemplation. A concept that ran counter to 4 millennia of Valari doctrine. Change is difficult, Steele acknowledged, especially for a civilization with such a long history of leadership. Leadership, Valana repeated, testing the word. Perhaps what we practiced was not true leadership, but dominance. I am beginning to understand the difference. Before Kaya could respond, the station's communication array chimed with a priority signal. The holographic display shifted to show Captain Gexar, his scales the formal green of official communication. Unity Station, he greeted them. The Krexani science vessel Empirical Thought has completed construction of the first large-scale quantum tunnel testing apparatus in Sector 7. We are prepared to conduct the inaugural transit test whenever your research team is ready. Kaya glanced at the assembled scientists, receiving nods of confirmation from each. We're ready, Captain. The theoretical models have been triple verified, and the energy calculations check out across all parameters. Excellent, Gexar replied, his scales shifting to excited blue. The observational fleet is in position. We await your signal to proceed. Kaya looked to Valana and Steele. Would the diplomatic corps care to witness the first official transit? Steele smiled. We wouldn't miss it. The group made their way to Unity Station's observation deck, a vast chamber with transparent walls offering an unobstructed view of space in all directions. Already, representatives from most council species had gathered, their attention fixed on a distant point where the Krexani science vessel waited. Initiating quantum tunnel sequence, came Gexar's voice over the communication array. Phase 1. 0-point energy accumulation. On the viewport's augmented display, energy readings began to spike around the Krexani vessel. Unlike the violent, chaotic energy signatures of traditional gate technology, the quantum tunnel method produced elegant spiraling patterns of subspace distortion. Phase 2, quantum matrix stabilization. The energy patterns coalesced into a perfect toroidal formation, a ring of swirling blue-white energy that seemed to both exist and not exist simultaneously. A physical manifestation of quantum uncertainty. Phase 3, tunnel pathfinding. A beam of concentrated energy shot from the center of the toroid, stretching into the distance before connecting with an invisible point 20 light-years away. Phase 4, tunnel formation. The toroid expanded, forming a stable wormhole large enough to accommodate the science vessel. Unlike traditional wormholes with their violent event horizons, this opening in space-time appeared almost serene, a gentle doorway between stars. Empirical Thought beginning transit, Gexar announced, his voice steady but unable to completely hide his excitement. The sleek Krexani vessel moved forward, entering the quantum tunnel with graceful precision. For a moment, it seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously, a visual illusion caused by the warping of space-time around it. Then it was gone. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. The assembled dignitaries held their breath, waiting. Transit complete, came Gexar's voice, now transmitting from 20 light-years away. Position verified at Sector 12. Coordinates match pre-calculated destination exactly. Transit time, 8.2 seconds. Energy expenditure minimal. A cheer erupted across Unity Station's observation deck. Species that had once been bitter rivals embraced or engaged in their cultural equivalents of celebration. Even the normally reserved Zenthari emitted harmonics of joy and wonder. In the midst of the celebration, Kaya found herself standing beside Valana. The Valari ambassador's crest feathers were fully extended in an expression of awe and appreciation. It truly is beautiful, Valana said quietly. Not just the technology, but what it represents. Freedom, Kaya suggested, the freedom to explore without barriers or gatekeepers. That too, Valana agreed. But I was thinking of something more fundamental, truth. For 4 millennia, my people maintained power through controlled access to knowledge and technology. We convinced ourselves and others that this was necessary for galactic stability. She turned to face Kaya directly. Your presentation 6 months ago did more than introduce new technology. Dr. Wren, it forced us to confront the truth that cooperation yields greater advancement than competition. A lesson humanity had to learn the hard way. Kaya admitted. Our history is filled with similar monopolies and their inevitable collapse. Perhaps that is why you were able to see what we could not. Vallana mused. Your civilization is young enough to remember its mistakes. The observation deck's communication array chimed again as Captain Gexar's vessel re-emerged from a new quantum tunnel, returning to its original position. Return transit equally successful, he reported, his scales now a jubilant blue. The path between stars is truly open to all. As the celebration continued around them, Envoy Marcus Steele approached Kaya and Vallana. Dr. Wren, he said with a formal bow. I've just received word from Earth. The Diplomatic Corps is creating a permanent position on the Intercouncil Science Commission. They've requested that you consider accepting the appointment as Earth's representative. Kaya blinked in surprise. Me? I'm a scientist, not a diplomat. Which is precisely why you're the perfect candidate. Steele replied, This new era requires scientific literacy in its diplomatic corps. Your actions 6 months ago demonstrated that you understand both the science and its political implications. Kaya looked out at the stars, considering the offer. 6 months ago, she had been focused solely on her research, viewing the diplomatic presentation as a necessary evil to secure funding and recognition. Now, she understood that science and politics were inextricably linked, that discoveries had consequences far beyond the laboratory. I would be honored, she said finally, on one condition, that I maintain an active role in the research division as well. I anticipated as much, Steele said with a smile. The appointment includes joint responsibilities in both diplomatic and scientific capacities. Vallana's crest feathers rose in approval. A wise choice, if I may offer unsolicited advice from someone who has spent centuries in diplomacy. Never forget that the science must lead the politics, not the other way around. Coming from you, Ambassador, that advice is particularly meaningful. Kaya replied with genuine respect. Vallana made the subtle gesture that Kaya had come to recognize as Vallari self-deprecation. I am still learning to be a better diplomat myself. Perhaps we can continue to learn from each other. I would like that, Kaya said, as they turned back to watch the continuing celebrations. A new quantum tunnel formed in the distance, this one created by a human vessel conducting its first official test under the new protocols. The swirling blue-white energy formed a perfect gateway against the velvet blackness of space, a testament to what could be achieved when knowledge was shared freely. In that moment, Kaya Wren understood that her life's work had transcended pure science to become something far more significant. A bridge between civilizations. A path to a future where cooperation replaced competition as the driving force of galactic development. And it had all begun with a slap, a moment of anger that had inadvertently triggered the greatest diplomatic transformation in 4 millennia. Somewhere in the vast expanse of the galaxy, the old order was crumbling. Gate networks were being supplemented by quantum tunnels. Species that had once accepted their place in the Vallari hierarchy were asserting their independence while embracing new partnerships based on mutual respect. The galaxy was changing, one quantum tunnel at a time. And as Dr. Kaya Wren stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, watching the stars become more accessible with each successful test, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. Ambassador Vallana Vrek had intended that slap to put humanity in its place. Instead, it had freed the entire galaxy to find a better one.